Just a trigger warning before I start. This is not a romantic comedy, so I just want everyone to know that this might ruin your date this evening. So it's better said than not. So yes, in the early 90s, less than 2 years after the Pacific fall of the Berlin Wall, that marks the end of the Cold War, and has often been seen as the last event of brutal so-called short 20th century, bookended by 2 world wars, by the persecution and genocide of the Jews, and extreme dictatorships. Several towns of the former East Germany make the headline news with events that Europeans, like me, thought would never occur again. So on September 17, 1991, in Hoyerswerda, a small town located approximately 100 miles from Berlin, a group of 8 drunk neo-Nazis attack a building housing Vietnamese and Mozambican residents. The neo-Nazis scream, bang on the doors, and throw bottles and stones through the windows. The helpless, terrified occupants try to hide away from the police from the crowd, and the police never shows up. On the same night, the galvanized mob decides to head toward the local refugee center while their neighbors cheer them on. 32 residents are wounded. In the following days, 230 foreigners are evacuated under police escort and relocated to other towns. Less than a year later, in August of 1992, inspired, quote unquote, by the Hoyerswerda outbreak and its outcome, a group of young neo-Nazis terrorized the residents of a refugee center in Rostock, another town from the former German Democratic Republic. For 4 days, they harassed the residents and finally set the building on fire in front of a cheering crowd of 3,000 neighbors who also prevent the rescue team from intervening. Most of the foreigners targeted are Vietnamese citizens who immigrated to Germany at the time of the German Democratic Republic. That same year, on November 23, 1992, in the city of Mölln in West Germany, this time, 3 Turks die in the criminal fire of their home, a crime for which an individual claims responsibility in a phone conversation during which he yells a Nazi slogan. A few months later, in May of 1993, in Solingen, West Germany, 5 women and children of the Turkish community die in the flames of their residence. Again, the neo-Nazis claim responsibility. Hamburg, Germany, 1993. A senior in high school sends his first screenplay to a production company named Wüste. His ultimate goal is to play the leading role in the film. His main inspiration is Sylvester Stallone, who wrote and acted in Rocky. Short, Sharp, Shock, that's the title. In German, Kurz und Schmerzlos, will be completed 5 years later after the former high school student has taken the time to develop it while attending a school of visual communication at the University of his hometown of Hamburg. This first movie, by a 24-year-old man who both is German and Turkish, is often considered a milestone in the history of cinema, representing, I quote, a new German-Turkish cinema, according to critic Katja Nicodemus. The film features a German-Turkish central character, as well as a Serb and a Greek, who live on the margins of German society. Such figures will often appear in the work of this filmmaker, who will claim in 2002 that, I quote, "It took Scorsese and the other Italo-Americans 70 years to start making their films. The Maghrebi French needed 30 years for their cinéma beurre. We were much quicker. We're already doing it," unquote. At about the same time of his life, in 2001, this director completes a very personal autobiographical documentary titled Wir haben vergessen zurückzukehren. We forgot to go back. His name is Fatih Akin. And he's the director of the 2017 film In the Fade that we will watch this evening. This theme of going, not going, of being so-called immigrants who never immigrated from anywhere, since they were born in Germany, is a common trope in German-Turkish community born on German soil after the immigration of their parents. It can be traced in the world of transitional figures like the legendary female writer who came to Notre Dame back in 2012, Emin Zepci Özdamar, as well as the writer Feridun Zaimoglu, the writer and essayist Zafer Shenoshak, among others. Like many artists of the German-Turkish community, Fatih Akin belongs to the first generation of residents of Germany who were born in Germany to Turkish parents and who happened to reach adulthood precisely at the time when the wall fell and when xenophobia and neo-Nazism spread in Germany and all across Europe and beyond. I will not begin to literally introduce the film, as I believe that a film always introduces itself in the best ways possible. I just hope that this contextualization and that the contextualization that the film provides at its end will resonate with what I indicated in this foreword. The events to which the film refers took place about 10 years ago. But a lot like what happens in Germany after the fall of the wall, they are unfortunately all too familiar today, not just for the Germans or for the Europeans like me, like I said at the beginning, but for us all. This is In the Fade by Fatih Akin. Thank you.